Welcome, Wapham crew, new listeners, friends, fiends, family, and phantoms. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. It is Sunday, September 18th. Monday, September 19th, for those of you across the pond and beyond. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, and welcome to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I'm your host, TessaTNT, and we are broadcasting live from the Mile High Clubhouse tonight. I hope you guys are having an awesome weekend. I'm here in Colorado, and the weather is just so bipolar. Last minute, as soon as school started, it's like, well, I'm going to rear my ugly head and get really hot for a while. And then for the last 4 days, it's been really cold, like winter's coming. And then today, it's been hot again. So, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes or at least a week, and you'll get a good change going on there. So if you're listening to us live right now, you may be listening to us on Spreaker.com, under We Are Paradox Media, or you may be listening to us on KPNL Radio, which you can find on KPNL Radio at kpnl-db.com. If you want to listen to us on your free time, whether you're working it, or working out, check us out once more under We Are Paradox Media at Spreaker, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Tumblr, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podcast Chaser, Podvine, and Amazon. I believe we got that worked out, but we might still have to work on that a little bit. And then we just this last week got picked up by eTalk Radio, which you can find at etalk.tv/radio. And so not only are we going to do sound with that, we've been working towards trying to get video out there again. We did that before on, what was it called? Periscope. And then Twitter bought out Periscope and totally ruined the whole thing. I've tried some sort of streaming things. I've even signed up for StreamYard, still haven't used that. But the new host of this new network was telling me, like, he's got one. It's really simple. It's not difficult to use. And so hopefully we'll be back on video pretty soon. Guess what? We're ungrounded from YouTube. So please mosey on over, subscribe, like any video that you listen to, and give us a like, and leave a comment, whether it be, I like this show, or, man, you really sucked at this time, Tess, or you can tell me what guest that you would like me to have on. So before we get to our guest tonight, I just want to remind you guys once again, I am in the top 20 for the Face of Horror, and everybody's like, hey, what's that? And some people say spam, some people think it's a scam, but it's not. I've tried it out on my family. So my husband with his credit card, my daughter with her Facebook, nobody's had any adverse reactions. So if you would please go on there every day and do your free votes. If you use a credit card, you actually get 2 free votes per day. But if you just go every day and leave me a free vote, it really will keep me in the running. And hopefully I'll get to meet Kane Hodder, do a photo shoot, win $13,000, and have a walk-on role in an independent film. That'd be so awesome. It's like my childhood coming back to my late adulthood. So if you want to go and vote for me, just go to faceofhorror.org/2022/Tessa-Thomas-Peterson, and that will show you my picture, where to vote, and if you scroll down, it tells you my profile, like why I think I would make it to the end of a scary movie, and different things along those lines, and what would I do with the $13,000? I said, I want to make scary movies. That's what I used to do as a kid with my family. I'd like to carry on that legacy. And then I'm like, well, but that might be a little expensive, so maybe I'll paint my ambulance. But my brother's coming back, so I can get that done for free. So what I really want to do with my $13,000 when I win it is I want to use $3,000 to go fly into Amsterdam, do a cruise of Ireland, the UK, Scotland, all kinds of places. That's my dream right there. Not just a scary movie, but going back to the homeland. So that to me is going to be pretty awesome. So please vote for me, free. And again, that address is faceofhorror.org/2022 /Tessa Thomas Peterson. Thank you so much in advance for helping me out with my dream. I love you guys so much. So, tonight on our show, we have Mr. Troy Bacon on, and we're going to be talking about walk-ins, walking into a strange world, um, as well as playing Would You Rather. So, Troy, would you rather be officially possessed or have a walk-in?
Wow, that's a tough one. I choose the latter.
Yeah,
I'd
me
rather
too.
be a walk-in.
Yeah, so that was just a joke.
Yeah,
We're really not playing Would You Rather, but yeah, me too. I totally rather just have a walk-in. It's short, not sweet generally, but it doesn't affect you like a full possession where you can actually die. But pretty scary. I've had a
yeah.
few. How about you?
Possessions I have dealt with before. Normally, you just need to know how to banish the spirit if it's another person, or if it's yourself, then you'd better be lucky that someone else is around you who knows how to banish the spirit or do something about it.
And there are signs, right? Like a lot of people will start to feel depressed, and then they'll get to the point where they don't feel like doing anything. And I think these things like sit there and they drain you and they bring you down to the point where they can actually overtake your body.
Yeah, possessions, in my experience, I see the change. It happens very quickly with someone. If a spirit is possessing someone, um, depression is its own thing. That can be a medical condition, a psychological thing, and
You don't think
that can take a
these
while.
entities can cause depression? Because I think they
Well,
can.
I suppose it's possible. I can't say yes or no either way, but I can imagine that's possible. I do know that dark entities do tend to feed off of energies like depression, anxiety, fear, and negativity of different types.
Yeah, like aggression. When something like this comes into your life, it'll come in, it'll cause fights for no apparent reason, and different things like that to kind of pave the way for, like you said, as feeding grounds.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we are, in my experience and what I've learned, luminous beings. And naturally, when we are charged and of a healthy and high vibration, then that tends to keep the dark ones away and they really can't mess with us. But when we do allow ourselves to live chronically in a low vibrational state with, you said, depression and also anxiety and just
Yep.
negativity and living on the negative side and not practicing gratitude, but practicing fear and practicing scarcity consciousness, then that does tend to attract the like energies of negativity and other negative beings. Yeah, so that brings our vibration down when we live like that, and that's what they like.
Yeah, and it's funny because for some reason my mic's really hot. I'm going to push it away from me. Um, but my dad would say things about my mom like, well, your mom was into the other side and these other things, and that's why what happened to her happened to her. And then my husband was the second person to say that to me, And I'm like, you don't even have to be in the paranormal to get some sort of attachment. You could go to a music fest or a carnival or the fair or somewhere where there's lots of people and something might see you as a tasty dish and decide to attach to you. I don't think you have to be in the world of paranormal investigation. You could be simply going and getting some groceries for Pete's sake.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, it could happen to anyone. In my experience, just by going out, especially for sensitive people and people who are of a more positive vibration, and especially energy workers and healers and light workers, when some of us go out, like into a busy city environment, or even to the grocery store, um, and there, if there's more of just all kinds of people around, and they're not, the rest of them aren't being careful, and the rest of them may be carrying energies and entities attached to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so then those entities like to hang out in public places and attach to vulnerable people. It can
Yeah.
happen to anyone, really, though. You don't have
Yeah.
to be even spiritually aware or believe in them for it to attach to you
And you don't even
or
have
try
to
to do
be
something in your
like
life.
depressed or anything like that. Everybody's got their aura, and sometimes there's little spaces in the aura because something may have happened to you, or somebody's dying, or something negative is happening in your life. So there's a little chink in your aura armor, and so something can see that gap and slip right in and attach to you. It's pretty insane.
Yes, thank you for actually using that verbiage about spaces in the aura. And what I've heard lately from others, and I've found this to be true in my many experiences, is that when when you're living with lots of judgments and you're constantly judging others or judging a particular person, or you have a chronic,
Negative thoughts.
yeah, just any type of negative thought. It doesn't have to be just judgments, but
Mm-hmm.
things like that. They create cracks in the aura, um, especially when it's a pattern, when it's even programmed conditioning, or even if you've done it to yourself, like created this pattern or habit of thinking negatively in a certain way, then that creates a crack in the aura, just a negative thread or something that then dark entities do latch onto, like they actually grab onto it or can anchor to it. Um, Another thing that I've found, in addition to our inner negativity that really attracts spirits, is filthiness and rotten stuff and just um, gross filthiness. Some clutter doesn't necessarily attract spirits. It really depends on the environment and the person. But I've found that just dirty stuff tends to be like food or something like food or an anchor for dark spirits, and they
Mm-hmm.
attach to it, and then they can live in your home if you don't keep your home clean. And so that's also one of the importance of cleaning for not just physical health and cleanliness, but spiritual and metaphysical health, to keep the bad ones out of your space.
Yeah, and like you said, dirty things. So some people like to drink, some people like to partake in drugs, some people like to partake in pornography, or like you said, these negative thoughts about other people. Um, Luckily, I'm not in that genre as far as negative thoughts because for me, it's like it is not my place to judge. That really takes too much energy. Ain't nobody got time for that. So I'm not really big into that, but I do know people who are, and I try to remind them, hey, that's not our place. Like, we really shouldn't be doing that. At the same time, does that mean I'm judging them? Or I'm just trying to direct them? Like, this isn't cool. We shouldn't be doing this.
Hmm. That's a good question, and I can comment on that question as well as how you asked it. And from where I've been and what I've experienced and what I've been taught too by especially the Syrian Council, I would recommend to not use the word should, or be careful how you use the word should, especially not live in certain should mentalities, especially if it's unconscious ways of shaming yourself or saying you should or shouldn't do something, should or shouldn't eat a certain food, or
I'm trying to remember who said that
should or shouldn't
before.
hang out.
I think it was a Psychic Gem Hunt or something, and we had a really terrible connection. I'm hoping to do another show with him, but he was talking about that, like keywords, and I'm going to say should, that you shouldn't use, but keywords and should, shouldn't, things like that. Like it's got to be more direct. Or
Yeah, the main thing about should that I have to say is last year I was meditating once, especially actually in a deep state of hypnosis, and a representative of the Syrian Council showed up and was mostly talking about some conditioning I had and that was tough to get rid of. But their message was that for me to not live my life according to someone else's shoulds and shouldn'ts.
Right.
And that is the main thing, is to be very careful about how you live and how you allow yourself to live according to shoulds and shouldn'ts.
Well, yes,
So
and also the mind,
that too.
whether or not you meditate or whatnot, but the mind is a very powerful thing. So even your thought process and the thoughts you have, it's important to control those too, because things can happen.
Yes, definitely thoughts are powerful. Thoughts lead to beliefs. Thoughts affect or lead to emotions too, and
Actions.
emotions lead to actions, states of being, and states lead to actions too. And thoughts are things in the spirit world, in the subtle realm, and a lot of spirits of all different kinds of densities hear and can see and detect thoughts. One thing that some of my ET, I could call them guides or friends or allies, one thing that some of them have told me at times is that they hear me in the higher densities, and that's also something that I'm learning to be more aware of, is how I might be coming across and unintentionally projecting certain thoughts or repeating certain thoughts that they would hear.
Mm-hmm. And that does happen. It's like a wheel that turns, and it's this thought process. And I don't know if it's OCD or ADD or what the heck it is, but I have that going on too. Like, what do I need to do? What needs to happen? What did I forget to do? Etc., etc. And it's just like a spinning wheel, keeps me awake all night, or leads to a very stressful day sometimes. And sometimes I'm just like there's no thought process at all. I'm just like zoning out. But I did. Okay, so back when I went to church again in my life, and I use it as medicine at certain times in my life when I need it, church and fellowship. But I met this really awesome guy, like the coolest guy I ever met at church, and his name was Brother Rankin. He was a truck driver, and he was very wise, and he used to always tell me that I need to be aware of my thoughts because the mind is a powerful thing, and what you allow your mind to bend on or ponder on or whatnot for multitudes of time can actually manifest or cause different things to happen in your life. And I did have an experience where we went about 30, I'm going to say 20 miles away from here. There was a place called Piedra Ridge Road, and at first it starts off like any other country road, and then there's massive drop-offs. But we went to the very end of that road, well, the end for us. You could go up farther and go to a lake, and there's moose and stuff like that up there, but we stopped there, we did some swimming in a swimming hole, and then on the way back down, I'm driving this car. It's a four-wheel drive, and most likely I'm driving faster than I should have, but at that point in my life, I was kind of like, fly by the seat of my pants, which I still am, but I didn't have a care in the world what happened, whether it was life or death, whatever happens, happens, and that's how I was. Um, and I was thinking on the way up, if I ever died, I want it to be in a place like this because it was just so beautiful. And on the way back down, I almost did die. It was so crazy. So I hit some corduroy in the road, and it caused my car to fishtail. I almost went off a 500-foot drop. And like I said before, there's 1,000-foot drops. Like hunters are finding people in this valley every year, all the time. Um, but almost went off a 500-foot drop, got control of it, and then it was like something otherworldly grabbed onto my steering wheel and yanked it to the side. Because there was no more corduroy, it was smooth going, but it was like upset that I didn't have that accident in the first place, like it wanted me to. So it yanked the steering wheel of my car. There we go off this embankment. It's about 50 feet drop off. Luckily, it was very compounded with pine needles. And I kept my eyes open. I kept my hands on the steering wheel, which we're in the air now. It really doesn't matter. You can't steer in the air. But I'm grabbing the steering wheel. I'm seeing where I'm going. As soon as we hit, that's when I close my eyes. Because I don't want to see what's next. We hit and roll a few times, and we come to on some trees, and we all survived. It was crazy. The Dalmatian flew out of my moonroof. So a sunroof has glass. A moonroof is open. So he flew out of the moonroof, and the car landed on top of him. But like I said, the pine needles basically cushioned him. So we flipped the car off of him, and he was able to escape. And he was acting weird that night, but he was perfectly fine, the vet said. Um, and we went back the next day because I'm thinking, we didn't survive that. Like, we're going to come back to collect my 357 lever action and stuff like that, and we're going to find our bodies still in the car. But luckily, that didn't happen. And once we were there during the day and I could see, had that tree not caught us, we would have actually gone off like a 1,000-foot drop off into a dry riverbed. We were so lucky. And I think that's my mom kind of on the other side too. But that goes to, I was thinking if I ever died somewhere, I want to be somewhere like this. And it's like, okay, you got your wish. There you go. And so I don't think things like that anymore.
Yeah, I think that's an example of what it sounds like to me is there's probably a malevolent spirit out there that feeds off of sacrifices and death. And it probably did listen to your thoughts and said okay and tried to grant that. So that's an example of just because it's out in the woods and out in a beautiful natural area doesn't mean that there could be or are dark spirits out there. I've been in woods and known wooded areas that sometimes it varies by the day and night too. Sometimes they come out more at night, but yeah, some beautiful woods I've known are definitely riddled with dark spirits just waiting to prey on someone vulnerable.
And we had this accident as the sun was setting, so it was like basically dusk. By the time we got everybody up and on the side of the road, which, like I said, it was a big drop and it was a sheer like upslope. And it was crazy because I grabbed Vern's dog and I carried him up the slope that night and put him up there. And then the next day when I went down to get things like my gun, that it actually hit me in the back of the head. I had a concussion. I didn't know why because I didn't feel it hit me. I think it was the adrenaline, but it hit me square in the back of the head. I didn't hit the steering wheel or anything because I had my seatbelt on. But yeah, we went down there. We picked up different things that I needed. And I had to grab on to rooted plants and stuff to climb back up. Like the night before, I'm carrying a Dalmatian up the side of this thing. That day, I had to grab onto things to get up it. It's amazing what adrenaline and things like that within our body can do.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, the human body is capable of all kinds of amazing feats when it just does things. And it goes into certain states.
Yeah, and going back to what you were saying as far as dark and light, this was right before the dark, but by the time we pulled out of there in the car that was following us, it was dark. But yeah, it was like right as the sun had gone down, there's still a little bit of light in the sky, but it's more dark than anything because of the trees. So it makes you wonder. What yanked on my steering wheel? It makes me wonder. Not you, but me. But yeah, I think there are things that dwell in the dark and sometimes might be in the light, different entities. That was really a strange situation for me.
And a different situation that I was in just about a year ago, last September, out near Mount Baker. I was staying, sort of camping out there, but with a woman, or near a woman, I sort of was just hanging out at her house, and then she had bear spray, and so I just felt called to go on a hike in the woods, kind of before. I normally wouldn't do this anymore, but before like dusk almost, and it was kind of overcast, almost slightly rainy, so I had my coat on. Anyway, there weren't supposed to be any dangerous animals out there or anything, but she did tell me that there may be a spirit or spirits in the woods as she sees orbs out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely felt, just the whole time I was walking, I felt like I was being watched. Yeah, we did learn that there is a spirit out there, definitely. I think he is the watcher of this one area. And we know what he looks like too. She made a drawing of him after she saw him once. But yeah, I was just being watched the whole time. On the way back, I heard an audible voice in the woods. Just it sounded kind of like a deeper male voice.
Mm-hmm.
But then I stopped and was listening. There was nobody else around. I was listening for quite a while. There's nobody else around, no hikers. I called out, just asking if anyone was around, if any humans were around. Still no response. There definitely wasn't a human out there, but I think it was one of the spirits out there that made a noise. I was actually I had some fear just walking out there by myself, even though it was kind of a high energy point.
You still felt something dark out there, or what?
I don't think it's dark. It's as we got to know the spirit some, actually in a state of hypnosis. He didn't say anything. He didn't really do anything. He was just sort of there, sort of just a watcher, I think is the best way to call him. Probably a protector of those woods, as two rivers, Silty and a Clear River, come together at a river nexus, and that's generally regarded as a power spot, especially by Native Americans, but you definitely can feel it out there, that there's just sort of high energy out there. And that night, we were also just stood out in her yard watching orbs float up the river, and lights appear and disappear in the air. One light that I saw it looked like a large blue, almost tongue shape is the best I can describe it, but just like a large blue light that wasn't like a radiant light. It was just a blue glowing thing that sort of just appeared quickly, kind of like a grandfather clock. It just shot out kind of in our direction towards us in the air and then like disappeared. I think it was approximately over where that river nexus was, and I'm pretty sure there's a portal out there. So yeah, there are definitely some power spots on this planet, some portals in the woods out.
Vortices?
Yeah, vortices where light spirits or just various spirits can come and go and live. I've also been camping near Mount Adams, and I saw lights in the woods and also just light flashes illuminate the woods at night. Another camper also reported a light phenomena at night by herself when we were there. But yeah, there's all kinds of life in the woods. You just have to be careful with where you go and get to know the area. I think sometimes you'll find areas that are naturally more toward the light, and some harbor dark entities, which I think can happen more at like neutral zones where there's not positive high energy out there, but it's just sort of like a neutral, almost nothing in the landscape that allows them to live there and feed off of things.
So yeah, it's pretty intense. We actually had a client contact us, and she was having some epic energy and things happening in her household. And it was kind of revolving around her daughter. And she didn't quite understand what was going on and brought up the notion of fairies, which I believe in fairies, but I've never dealt with them. Like, I've dealt with like little gremlin people and little people, but I've never been privy to fairies. I've seen little light orbs. I think most of those are alien. Perhaps some of them were fairies, especially when I was a kid. But yeah, she had huge furniture being thrown and knocked over, and things being painted on her walls, like sigils and stuff, or runes. I'm not sure what you want to call it. All kinds of different things. So we would meet with her away from her home, and then finally went and investigated there and came to the conclusion that they built their house right there where the fairies are living. A lot of shit got knocked down. The fairies are pissed off. So you need to plant a garden and give offerings like tea and honey and toast and different things like that that the fairies would enjoy. And once she did that and planted certain plants and stuff, everything started to go better. But a lot of it came from her daughter, which I believe she may have been part fae in past life or something. I'm not sure how it all, recycles or whatnot, but her daughter was mostly the center of this. I don't know if they were just attracted to her or if she was a fae in a past life, but it was pretty intriguing. Luckily, our group is pretty diverse because I'm like, I don't know the first thing about fairies, but a lot of my group did, so they took it over from there, but that was pretty intriguing.
That is interesting. I have met people, I still know some of them, who are incarnated fairies, and especially met some of them at the Fairy and Human Relations Congress. I didn't go this summer, but I'll probably go back next summer. I think it's still going to happen in Oregon. I'll have to check on that, but it's an amazing gathering. Yeah, fairies and various higher dimensional beings can incarnate into human bodies at times if they want to have experiences as humans, if they want to work with nature spirits on the land or teach about that, or um, just experience being human. Sometimes it's a vacation for them to just be here.
So you think they can
Yeah,
blow up to our size and actually have a human experience? Because I've heard about
well,
that, but a lot of these things that we talk about is known as mythology or fiction when it's actual reality.
well, that's an interesting question because in the spirit world, as I know it, size is hardly relevant.
Hmm.
And just because a lot of people report fairies as being a relatively small size, often compared to human bodies, doesn't mean that they can't incarnate and inhabit a human body and grow up with it into an adult size.
Oh,
After
wow.
all, there's we don't actually know how large or what size our souls are. There's not, as far as have encountered, there aren't people who have measured the size of a soul, really.
Did you see that article where they had some sort of, technology, aka machinery, hooked up to a person when they passed, and it was showing, the energy throughout their body, and then they passed and all the energy was gone, but there was a little ball of light right at the base of the skull in the spine, and that was still there even after the heart and the brain quit working, and then all of a sudden it just went away. Um, Maybe it's, that little orb size that we always see in pictures and stuff.
That is interesting. A few things. I have heard, it was years ago, I don't remember um, the source of it, but it was, I think it was probably, I'm guessing the same institution or whoever weighed human bodies at before and after the time of death. And it was found that after a person dies, they lose approximately 3 ounces.
Yep.
And that's thought to be the approximate weight of the soul in the body.
Isn't that
But that,
amazing?
yeah, that little orb of light, I haven't heard that exactly before, but that
Yeah, I actually
sound,
shared an article, but that was like almost a year ago. And I believe
yeah,
that was on Four Corners Paranormal, but yeah, it was an article about that. I'll have to look it up again and send it to you.
yeah, I would love to read more about that. That sounds pretty accurate according to what I know about the soul and how it enters the body. What I work with in some of my energy healing and hypnosis sessions is what I call the soul gate chakra. I think other people call it that too. It's the basically opening or chakra center at the back of the head. Like it centers right around that soft spot where the spine meets up with the skull. And so that's right where it is, around the back of the head. And I've heard of other healers who have worked with that, put their hands on it even, and channeled energy into it and brought more of a person's soul in their body and fixed medical conditions very quickly that way.
Hmm.
That was Gary Holtz specifically that I've read about doing that. Um, I know his wife, Robbie Holtz. I've met her, and she wrote the book Secrets of Aboriginal Awakening. And he wrote his book before that, um, Journey to the Heart, Secrets of Aboriginal Healing. So that's something he learned is that spot, I think, from the Aborigines and also from his.
I love the Aborigines, and I don't even live there, but I don't know, I just love their spirit and their humor and everything.
They, yeah, they definitely have some powerful healing knowledge. But
Hmm.
Gary, according to Robbie, I think he was a triple Scorpio and he had amazing psychic abilities that he developed, I think, after going to the outback and learning from the Aborigines. And his abilities would allow him to like see a person's energy body so clearly that he could see what was wrong with it and how to heal it. and especially working with this soul gate at the back of the head was one of his common things. But yeah, that's fascinating you say that. Humans are amazing beings, and in
There's a
my
reason we're God's favorite.
and we're made in God's image, and in
Yep.
my opinion, we are perfect beings.
Me too.
Um,
And everybody's like, well, that doesn't make sense because we're in his image, but why are you a girl? Well, there's a heavenly father and there's a heavenly mother and there's a Holy Ghost or Holy Spirit or whatever you want to call him. But he
well,
never talks about her in the Bible because look at how much people use his name in vain. He doesn't want that disrespect towards his wife, so he keeps her out of it.
hmm,
Pretty smart.
that's an interesting, neat perspective.
But I do believe she exists. I know she
Spirit,
does.
yeah, spiritually, metaphysically, and even biologically, when you look at our energy bodies, we're just really amazing and beautiful, and we can be very perfect, luminous beings when we learn how to be. Um, Biologically, when you look at the physical body, it is made up of geometry, and under microscopes, cells are made up of all kinds of geometries. Um, I'd have to find it again, but I saw a picture going around on Facebook. I'm pretty sure it's real, um, of the most clear, uh, what is it, like subatomic
Like
microscope
signatures.
imaging
Oh,
of a
okay.
cell, and it looks like a very advanced futuristic city in all of its intricate geometries and um, different parts of it. And so it's amazing. Even our bones or skeletons are made up of the golden ratio geometry with bone lengths, and pretty much every part of us has geometry. For a long time, I was sharing pictures of very interesting geometrical plants and interesting plants and pieces of nature on Facebook. And I don't do it so much anymore, but I do see just all the time, and believe that nature is geometry manifest, or another way of putting it is that nature is just geometry, and we see that in the shapes in plants. In yeah, almost every plant has its own sacred geometry, squares and ovals and circles and various other shapes. And it's just so beautiful when you look at the natural world and really see geometry. Yeah, it's really a fantastic, weird world that we live in my experience. And looks like we have about 15 minutes left in the hour.
Yes. And we will be going about 5 or so after the hour to music break. So we have about 10 minutes more left on this. But yeah, it's very intriguing. All this stuff happens. And like you were talking about, feeling somebody watching you. Like, even if you don't see something, you can feel it in the direction that it's watching you from. And it's just pretty intense.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, when I've walked in the woods, I definitely feel approximately the directions of where spirits and things are watching. Um, yeah, about this world, I think next hour I will really focus more on walk-ins as a
Mm-hmm.
topic, and how walk-ins work generally, and how some walk-ins enter the body that I know of, and various famous walk-ins that I know of. And yeah, I'll go more into walk-ins next hour. But for this world, I definitely see both the light and the dark
Mm-hmm.
all around the
And have you
world.
noticed? And there's a lot of people that noticed, and even my daughter, my eldest daughter, who's 22, and I were talking today, and she's like, "Mom, have you noticed how like the green's not so green and everything seems so like dimmed down?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And people have been like saying that, and it's true. Like the colors aren't as vibrant, things like that. And maybe it is because the sun's radiation or whatever is coming in and it's washing everything out, or is it something else? Is it some sort of, film or filter we got going on? I don't know.
I
It
think
really is a strange new world these days.
I think that's a very subjective point of view. Quite often when I do work on myself or I just bring myself more grounded and focus on my environment, I honestly see colors more vibrantly and clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's just my eyeballs. I know that genetically my eyes are within the tetrachromat category, which allows me to see some subtleties of certain colors and types of colors that other
Mm-hmm.
people don't pick up on. But yeah, I'm sensitive to colors and light. One thing that maybe I don't know if it's just my eyes naturally being sensitive, but I'm pretty sure that our sun has become a lot more white than
Yeah, it's
it used to
brighter.
be as yellow. Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you're noticing that. I don't think I'm the only one noticing it. Corey Good also talked about it years ago that now NASA and the Secret Space Program says that our sun is white. And I see that, especially on hot, clear, sunny days. It just outside
It's
um,
whitewashed.
looks like the Twilight Zone almost, but
Yeah,
just
it's almost
extremely
black and
bright.
white because the color is faded, so it's almost black and white, but not quite.
Yeah, I don't see that the color is faded, but I just see that the light is brighter. It's a kind of the image, or I guess metaphor or analogy that I can compare it to. That's kind of simple as going out in the Utah desert, salt flat desert or something. I haven't actually been there
The Great
myself, but I've
Salt
seen
Lake
pictures of
Desert,
it.
yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, and I've seen pictures of it. It's just so intensely bright
Well, that's
out
because
there during
it
the
is
sun.
salt. You can actually pull over on the side of the road and run out and grab a chunk of salt. That's
Yeah,
insane. And then you keep driving and you see the mill. You know that salt, like the company, I can't think of the name of it. I want to say Morton, but I don't think it is. It could be. I
I
always
think
doubt
that,
myself. But the
yeah,
girl with the umbrella who's walking along, that's the factory is out there right in the middle of the Great Salt Lake where it's dried up and there's just tons and tons of salt all over the place.
yeah. Um, that's like the kind of brightness that I see these days from just the sun. I live in Seattle and around Washington,
Yeah, I used
just
to live
all
in
over the place.
Marysville, not too far from there.
Yeah, even especially during the summer these days, I just see that the sun is brighter than I remember it used to be. I think that's from the sun changing itself, like the brightness intensifying. And um, when I used to watch Cosmic Disclosure some years ago, I remember Corey Good describing that the sun is coming out of its minimum, and now we do see that it's becoming more active with more frequent solar flares
Oh,
and
yes.
solar weather hitting us. But it's just becoming more active and brighter. I think Corey Good said that's a part of what stars go through, and many other um,
Yeah, it's kind of like
civilizations around the universe have gone
bright
through
before the
this.
storm, the bright before the star explodes or kills itself or
Yeah, um,
so that's
I,
scary. I think we have at least like a few hundred or thousand or whatever years going on. I'm not sure about the scientific theology of the sun, but um, being that we are in the last like 3 minutes before we go to music break, do you want to tell our listeners where they can find your site and such so they can check that out during the music break?
Yes. My practice is called New Being Hypnosis, and there I offer various kinds of hypnotherapy services, mostly on the emotional and energy healing spectrum. I've done a lot of trauma healing, as well as I've done some regression, past life regression, and even some present life regressions. I have a specialty in tinnitus treatment, which
Oh my gosh.
some of that
My
therapy can be applied to other conditions. We can talk if someone needs something specific, but
Yeah, and I was
medical,
about to say something, but I'm gonna wait till next hour because
yeah,
yeah.
medical hypnosis, just by the way, does usually need a medical referral if it has like a medical cause to it. But otherwise, New Being Hypnosis, and I offer not only physical and non-physical inductions and work. A lot of my hypnosis involves animal guides, animal
Mm-hmm.
spirits. Also, angels often show up. Some star people have shown up, especially for my teams and groups, and um, people's guides too. My ornitharian guide or guides sometimes come in. And quite often, I actually channel. I've done that for a while. I sometimes channel or convey messages from the beings. And so that becomes a part of the therapy and the service and the healing. Um, Other than that, if I don't channel, I often do pick up on intuitive messages of what a person needs and what's going on when we are in a session. And so, yeah, then it becomes kind of like its own partnership. Um, I guide people very patiently. Um, it really just becomes type of energy work by itself, I think, is a lot of what I do. I've done oversoul healings too. That's also always fun.
Is that
And
kind of like healing for trauma that your soul has received, not just in this life but in past lives?
yeah, that can be a part of soul healing and trauma healing from past lives. Of course, past life regression can lead to healing, and a big part, I think, of people's trauma and fears is from past lives. That's very common.
Mm-hmm.
The oversoul work, that's like a different level, I think, beyond just past life work. Um, yeah, that often brings in much more profound and often clear messages that people need. And I've done a lot of soul contract healing. I've developed my own methods and tools of soul contract healing to really get to learn about a person's soul contracts, any particular issue or relationship or anything else, and then learn about it. I have also figured out how to basically destroy or void soul contracts that
That is awesome
yeah,
because
that
that
don't
could be
serve
like
anymore.
things that carry on through a whole family, not just you, but your family connected to you after you.
Yeah, yeah, especially for personal family trauma problems and generational
Mm-hmm.
issues,
Curses, yeah.
that can help. The thing about soul contracts is
Well, I really
you
don't
can
want to
only
cut you off, Troy, but we'll pick back up on that and then we'll go back to walk-ins and such when we come back this next hour. But we do have to go to our first music break.
okay. I think that's a perfect segue, and yeah, I can finish what I was saying and then move into the walk-in subject.
For sure. Well, on this break, we have Miss McKaylin Hay She's from Ontario, Canada. She's going to be singing Collapse, Close, Nothing But Blood, and Devil You Know. And then we have Mr. Fred Johnson III from Canyon County, California. You guys, please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
Saw you for the first time in a while. You seemed so surprised. I worked out a smile. 'Cause I've grown and I've changed. Yeah, we went separate ways. How come we're both back here? 'Cause you pushed me away, let my life rearrange, but still we're both back here. Close to me, I want you close to me. I can see that you want me. Follow me, baby, just follow me. There's too much sky, too blue, too white. The birds on the wire are singing, but I don't know why. Why aren't the roses hanging their heads? They're standing straight up, blooming instead. Now that we're apart, there's nothing but blood in my heart. Why does that guy have a smile on his face? Why is the sun even shining today? Why are the headlines talking about love? Don't they all know what happened to us? Now that we're apart, there's nothing but blood in my heart. The moon goes up, the sun goes down, the stars light up, the world goes round. Every day, life moves on, it don't stop for anyone. The moon goes up, the sun goes down, the stars light up, the world goes round. Every day, life moves on, it don't stop for anyone. Now that we're apart, there's nothing. Now that we're apart, there's nothing but blood in my heart. Blood in my heart. Blood in my heart. Your troubled heart bleeds like a river. It's rushing towards fields painted greener. It doesn't see the demons behind, praying you're getting close to the line, so they can get their hands on love and trade it off for silver. The curtain's nice, but what it hides is worse than sticks and stones. Better the devil, you know. Better the devil, you know. Better the devil, you know. Better the devil, you know.
Waiting here on this cold, lonely night without you. The tension's overbearing. Wondering, are you coming back home again? To inspire fondness with love. Where did our love go wrong? My sugar. Why did I make you cry? Whispers flow through my mind when I think about you. That warm feeling in me. My heart sings a sad song and just melts away. Please look into my eyes, my sugar. There's life in out there. Until the sun doesn't shine anymore, I'll be there. When time is a memory, I'll know this love. You will always be the one, my sugar. The feeling is so strong. Waiting here on this cold, lonely night without you. Where did our love go wrong, my sugar?
Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us this evening on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. This evening, we're joined by Mr. Troy Bacon, and we're talking about walk-ins and different other things that are going on in our world today around us. Welcome back, Troy. I know that you needed to get back to like your website because you said the name of it, but you didn't put the .com. So if you want to go over that really quick, and then we'll continue on, that'd be awesome.
Yes, of course. My website is newbeinghypnosis.com. Pretty simple, and anyone can reach out to me through there. Email me is pretty good, or if you have some questions, you're also welcome to call or text me, and we can just chat. And consultations are free. You can always set up a free consultation through the appointments tab on my website. It should be pretty simple once you're there. Also on the front page, I'll mention this, I have linked an orphanage. You just click on the picture on the right provided. It's like right on the front page. Just scroll down a little bit. Donate to the orphanage, and that's something I'm sponsoring through my business too. I'll be donating about 1% or more, which will be actually fairly almost astronomical or very helpful for them in the Uganda turnover exchange with the money over there. It goes a long way, just a little donation. It's called the Reality Orphanage that I'm sponsoring. I'm in touch with the founder of it. He's actually a few years younger than I am, in his early 20s, and he started this orphanage because his village in Mayuge is very, very impoverished, and so the children needed an orphanage to help them out. And
Oh, yes. We just talked last night. Yeah.
you were talking with the founder of the
Jiren.
orphanage?
Yeah, he sent me a friend request, and I was just like, we have one friend in common, and that friend we have in common is you. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad he reached out to you. Yeah, so people can donate to that orphanage. Even a small donation helps a lot. $10 or $20 can buy them 2 or
So
3 days worth
much.
of food.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a lot over
and
there.
as their school year is starting again now, they are also in need of school supplies. They don't have much money to afford the school supplies they need, and so we can help them out. They also had a big drought in that area of eastern Uganda this summer, and they couldn't grow their own food. They don't have much money to buy food, and a lot of them were starving throughout the summer, and a lot of them still are. So that's something I'm supporting after I've gotten to know the founder, because not only is New Being Hypnosis founded on the idea of helping others who have been damaged and hurt and traumatized raise up, and also just help with motivation and other things. But New Being Hypnosis, I also have a vision of helping this planet throughout my lifetime raise up those who are impoverished, those who don't have the fortune that we do, many of us in America and other developed countries, as well as this is one thing that I'm hoping will I'll be able to contribute to. Is many years ago, Cryon, he's a collective entity, but he predicted that some places in the continent of Africa will develop technologies that we don't have yet, and technologies, they'll be like a leader in technology someday. I think sustainable and positive technologies, and not destructive, dangerous AI or anything like that. But because they haven't had their renaissance and their spring yet of high advancement across that continent, then Cryon is predicting that they will eventually become one of the world leaders in technology. So that's part of my mission, is helping other developing areas in need, and also helping provide those children with the opportunity to grow up in a healthy way, with healthy food, with healthy water. They also don't have clean water, that I'll be working on setting things up for them later. But it would be awesome to be able to just help at least one village, probably more later, help them raise up. And I'm hoping that those children, when they grow up, they have the opportunity to heal from everything they've been through, heal
I know, as if
I
it
also
couldn't get
feel,
any worse. Now there's mudslides and stuff going on. And I don't know if you know who Bill Hauser is. He has a friend in the African region as well. Part of me is from Africa. I am part black, but it was sad. He sent me these pictures and this video of them inside the house where this mudslide happened, and they're digging, and they found a little boy, and he must have been about 7 years old. It was so sad. And then the next picture of the bodies, they were all lined up. They had blankets on top of them. And this one woman, I just couldn't get over it because she wasn't dirty whatsoever, and she was wearing black. There was no dirt on her whatsoever, so I wonder if she succumbed to a different death than a mudslide, because everybody else had mud on them that you could tell was clearly cleaned off. But it was just the saddest thing. They got this ton of rain, there was mudslides, and yeah, people died in that. It's so scary.
yeah, um, yeah, that is scary to live through something like that. And it's definitely so easy to just focus on mental health in America, or even without focus on mental health issues in America. It's so easy to just live life here
Mm-hmm.
and not be affected by the extreme poverty and
We're getting more and
parasites.
more affected every day, and there's so
Yeah,
many people homeless, there's so many people jobless, there's so many companies that are like, where are the people? We need people to work. And I don't know if everybody's just in a state of depression or a place where they're afraid to go out because COVID is still happening. We actually went through it with our family. For me, it was the third time. For my family, it was second or third, depending on who they were. But it was a lot easier this time than last. Vern luckily didn't go to the hospital, but now we have people homeless. Now we have people going hungry. We're getting to that state of other countries, and we never thought we'd be there, but that is the way of the world at this point.
unfortunately it is. I
Mm-hmm.
do see that eventually, after the change period that we're in on Earth, there probably will be a just a change in the economies of the world, and people will eventually be able to build a sustainable and world with equity. And equity is one of the things that I really that's one of the core ideals of New Being Hypnosis, is not only helping others heal and also become whole again in America here, and whoever I can work with, but also just helping the world in the ways that I can. Yeah, I just can't sit by doing only hypnosis here and then know that these problems are happening, and if I can do anything about it, then I will. So that's
Well, we're
part of.
getting very creepily close to World War III. And everybody's like, nah, we're not going to do that. But everybody keeps doing things that shows activity of getting closer and closer and closer to that point. And it's really scary to me because that means a major degradation of the life force on this planet, which we've done this several times. Maybe this is another time for more cleansing for Mother Earth, but I don't know. I'm really scared because China, America, Russia, everybody, they're doing on the sea activities, they're doing in the air activities, they're doing all these different practices just to get ready for war because that seems to be where we're going at this moment.
Unfortunately, yeah, there does seem to be a lot of conflict in the world, but as I see it and understand it, we're going through a split in timelines,
Well,
and
even in our own
people,
nation.
yeah, people, exactly, and everyone is going through this split and having to choose which way they go. And although people have talked about this splitting of timelines, it's from my understanding, it's not so much that we're going to literally just split into two different timelines and be completely separate, but it's like we're all still living here, and that's not going to change, but we're just these timelines are just different states that each person is living in. Some will choose the war path, unfortunately. They'll die out eventually. Some are choosing the AI agenda and the transhumanism agenda and that line of thought, and believing that we need to enhance our bodies with microchips and nanites and AI and other stuff to become a more perfect, enlightened, unstoppable being or something. However, there's also the humanist choice, which is definitely where I'm going towards, and many others, to this spiritual awakening on Earth, and awakening organically, very naturally, through spiritual practices, through meditation and healing practices, through community. One of the big things that I've seen increasing on the planet is intentional communities and intentional gatherings, spiritual gatherings. And one of the perspectives that I've heard is that because 2022 has been kind of an odd year, and I had
Oh my
many of my
gosh, yes, it
own
has.
goals. Yeah, I
It's
had
been
many of
very
my own
outlandish.
goals
It's like,
and
where the
things I've
hell
been
are
working on
we?
this year. But many of the goals I had set in the beginning of this year and things I tried to initiate throughout this year kind of didn't turn out like I expected. And so I've had to just learn to go with the flow of how things go and how things are just shaping up in the universe, and how I'm really called by Spirit to develop and help others heal. But I've heard an interesting perspective that the reason many people are experiencing this kind of wall of or restriction in a way from the universe of not being able to just do everything they wanted so smoothly like they envisioned is because what we are being called to do as a species now is connect and become more communal and create communities and come together more and work with integrity for others and work together instead of so much separateness of just doing what we want as individuals. And so that is changing. And
It's just like that post you made today. One way, or one day, the wind will change.
oh yeah, that was
By Calvin and Hobbes.
yeah, that was I think I showed that to my story, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
that
like
was a
it.
book I found when I went outside for a walk and just ended up just sitting in the sunshine on a stone balcony in my apartment complex, shared by others. But I found this book, One Day the Wind Will Change by, I forget the author's name, but a Calvin and Hobbes book. And so I just was alone out there, and I decided to pick it up and read it. Left it out there because I'm sure it's a child's book who probably left it out there and will get it tomorrow, most likely.
He's like, oh my gosh, I forgot my book.
Yeah, but I decided to read it because I was just there alone, and it was quite humorous. I enjoyed reading that. And so I think it was also an interesting sign that like the universe sending me a message that one day the wind will change, and sometimes you just have to wait. I've learned to be very patient this year and wait for people to come through and for certain things to turn out. And it has everything I've had to wait for and wanted to get done and had to wait for has come to be in some way and has come through in some way. But I just had to surrender and wait and allow things to happen as they need to happen for everyone else too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I've learned this year. About walk-ins, though, I want to really transition to that topic. As we're seeing this change period, I call it the change period or the Great Awakening too.
Or the big change. Like, there is a huge change happening right now, and all of us are mostly comatose, so we're not realizing it. But a lot of us are picking up on it, and it's causing even more anxiety than before.
Yes. Another thing that Cryon has talked about is the prophecies from, especially the Mayan prophecies and other cultures, and I think it was a Hopi prophecy too, that one day, I think they called them rainbow children or people of the rainbow or something, will be born on Earth, and we will see their birth and rising as groups of people who come together, who do what is truly right for the planet and for humanity more than what is going to make them money or act on greed. And so I think we're seeing the beginning of that. We're seeing a lot more people awakening, and it's been around, definitely. People have been doing things not for money, but for even charity and for what is truly right to make change in the world. But now I think we're seeing that a lot more. And I see a lot more people spiritually awakening and people returning to their cultural roots, the spiritual practices of their ancestral roots too. And that can be one of many ways of healing ancestral trauma. A lot of people coming together in gatherings that I've been at and witnessed and just seen happening, sharing and sharing cultural knowledge and also just resources with each other, not for personal gain, but just as a community. That's something I've been seeing. And so it's this time of great awakening that we're in. Again, I guess another Cryon prediction was, I think back in like even the late 90s and early 2000s, he was saying that 2020 would be a year of change. He didn't specify what would change, but it's a year of change, or was, and even now the pandemic is still carrying on, and there are still viruses going around, even non-COVID viruses. But it's a year of change on the earth. We've seen, of course, changes in politicians.
Oh my goodness.
I don't want to
Even changes
into...
within politicians. I don't know about you, but Joe Biden, everybody has a certain ear structure, and I've seen different photos where the ear structure is different. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with that, but it's kind of freaking me out.
I haven't seen those photos, but okay. I know that I've heard many different kinds of perspectives just of Joe Biden. I don't want to get into too much politics, but
Right.
yeah, we've seen changes in everyone. What I've seen, not only as a direct result of isolation from the pandemic since 2020, but also just an energetic change on the earth that has been happening as the pandemic happened. It was a tragedy for the planet, of course, especially during 2020 and 2021. But it was also meant to be, I believe. It was meant to happen to this planet, and it was time. It occurred at the right time for people's awakening, and since then, as people have been in isolation more, they've been forced to sit with themselves. Many people who didn't meditate before started meditating, and many people just started even going out in nature by themselves or connecting with online communities of all kinds, not just of metaphysical and mindful, and also even UFO and other paranormal types of topics, but people have just been connecting more through Zoom meetings, especially, and through online groups. So I see it as what's happening is a wave of awakening that is really the beginnings of the next era. I think it was back in 2021, shortly after I had my walk-in experience and awakening. I'd heard of and got the book, The Toltec Prophecies. I'll have to go get it maybe after the next break or something, and forget the author, but just the Toltec Prophecies. And in it, he was explaining the Toltec prophecies, which are very similar to Mayan prophecies in the Mayan calendar, but a little different. And he was saying that in the Toltec system, 2012 was the overlap or the direct midpoint of an overlap between cycles, and the beginning of what they call the day cycle that we're moving into started before 2020. I don't remember what year, but quite a while before before 2012 even. And so 2012 was the midpoint, and now we're, I think, coming out of it. The end point of the last cycle, like the very last day of the last cycle, that they call a night cycle, which is like their 1500 year or something year long count. And so the end of it is, I think, November 26th, 2026, if I have that correct, which will be the very end of the last period and the beginning of the next, or not the beginning, but the true heralding in of the pure energy of the next cycle we're moving into. And so that's going to be a big thing then. Also in the human design system, I believe in 2026, I think it might be around that time in November of 2026, there's also the ending of the mutation of the rave human, and it's just called a rave in human design, but it's like there's one of the 9 centers in human design of the energy body that is mutating for spirit awareness, and it will reach its completion in 2026, as I recall.
Wow.
And so, yeah, a bunch of things will be coinciding, just like they often do in the universe. But this is a time when walk-ins are increasing, from my understanding, too. Walk-ins are nothing new, though. they've been around even for centuries, documented and reported. I think all around the world, but especially in Native American tribes and cultures. It's not so widely talked about, but I read that in Walken's. I'm forgetting the subtitle, but from the book from Sheila Seppi about
Rockies,
Walkens.
walking into a strange world. And I keep
Yeah,
wanting to say strange new world because it's new to some of us. But at the same time, same old world to a lot of us that have been experiencing it like all along.
yeah, it is a new world though, and yeah, even some native tribes, according to Sheila Seppi's research and her book, do understand walk-ins, and they have had some understanding of them for centuries. But walk-ins are increasing. I think I've actually come to understand that they are part of the evolutionary change period of each planet. I just, from my past lives on other planets, I have a sense of remembering that is a thing that was happening on um, the evolving planet that I remember before the change period, but the main lifetime I remember from the planet I call Andara near Sirius A. That that planet was already evolved, fairly well evolved before that lifetime. But anyway, this planet is reaching its peak. Walk-ins are basically a soul exchange or soul infusion. There are various types that are called by different names. Some are soul jumpers or jumper walk-ins, and it's like
Yeah, that's what I was talking about at like the music fest. It's attached to somebody and it sees you and it's like, look at this fresh new buffet.
well, I don't think that's a walk-in. Honestly, that's not what I understand of a walk-in.
For me,
For a jumper walk-in, I've talked with.
that's what I'm thinking. Jumper walk-in is it's attached to somebody, but it sees you, so it jumps to you and then it walks in. I don't know. For me, I had a different experience. I had this investigation up the road. It was for a lady that was pregnant, and she's like, "There's something in my house. I want to cleanse it, and I need to do it before the baby comes." I'm like, "Let's do it tomorrow." So we did, and I went up there, and she lives right behind a Catholic church. I go in there. I don't sense or see anything or feel anything. I do feel like something's watching me, but I can't see or whatever. And so I go through and I show her how to cleanse, like open the drawers, wave it under the bed, in the corners, like everywhere. You need to get every crevice, crook, and cranny to cleanse this place. And I left, I went home, watched TV, and as soon as I took off my pants that had my protective stones in it and put on my jammies, that's when my walk-in happened. And he was pissed.
That's not a walk-in, Tessa. Walk-ins are not evil. They're not aggressive. Even with the jumper
Well, I think
walk-ins, they're
everybody
just
has
neutral.
different ideas of walk-ins. So this one was not a full possession. This one only happened twice, I believe. The possession
Okay.
lasts a much longer time. So what is your definition of a walk-in?
I do have to politely disagree. There's not different opinions of what a walk-in is.
There
A,
is,
posse-
because I have one of those.
a possession is not a walk-in. A walk-in is of a benevolent nature, or sometimes just a neutral nature, and they just are here to experience life,
Do you
but
want to
from
hear my
a higher
definition of it?
dimension.
Because
But a walk-in is truly from another world or dimension, and mine was kind of like a partial exchange, and it's hard to. I can get into how mine works, but yeah, a walk-in is here to evolve humanity, to heal the individual generally, or for a jumper walk-in, sometimes they're just here to even for a few minutes or a few hours, to witness our strange world through a human's eyes. And that might just be to, it's all by soul contract. It's not by possession. It cannot be by possession.
Okay, so when they walk in, they
walk-
don't possess your body?
No, not at all.
What?
The only
So what
way
exactly
a
is
walk-in...
walk-in? Is it just giving you thoughts and stuff? Because I
No.
don't know.
Okay, I'll go into more depth about what a walk-in's purpose is. The only way a walk-in can happen is by soul contract, and that can either be before birth of the body or sometimes after birth if the natal soul makes a soul level
Didn't I just say that the
agreement.
lady that I was cleansing for was pregnant with an individual and she wanted her house cleansed before it was born?
Yeah, a birth though doesn't necessarily mean it's a walk-in. A walk-in happens after birth
The
and
only,
generally in adulthood.
for me, like, the definition I have, okay, possession takes a while to get to, but once you got it, you got it. A walk-in is a temporary stasis where it doesn't stick around for a long time, but it walks in and it makes its presence known.
Not in a negative way, never. Because a
Well, I don't know,
walk-in is
because
here
I
to help.
had a negative walk-in.
Well, Tessa, maybe you can use a different title, but
That's
truly
what I
a
put it up to,
walk-in
because if it was a possession, I think it would have lasted longer and had more effect.
in my understanding, and every single walk-in I've ever talked to and known of is of a fairly higher density nature, at least,
Can I tell
even
you
if
about
I'm not
mine?
enlightened or anything. Yeah, go ahead and tell me about yours, and then we can discuss this more.
Yeah. Okay, so I did that cleansing for this pregnant lady, and like I said, I didn't feel anything negative or anything. And my guard was down because I was just like, no, it seems perfectly fine. But I showed her how to cleanse the house. You know, you got to put your foot down, you got to be dominant. This is your home, not theirs, etc. Open the drawers, go under the bed, in the closet, every nook and cranny and crevice. Put the smoke in there. And then I left. And then, like I said, I got home, watched TV, then I went and got ready for bed. And as soon as I took my pants off that had my protective stones in it and put my jammies on, walked down the hallway, sat down, then all of a sudden I stand up, I take off my jammies, and I'm this other person. I don't know what the hell it was, if it was demonic or what, but I was very angry that I tried to help this person. I tried to get rid of him. So he was going to teach me a lesson. So, yeah, I was using verbally abusive language. I don't remember any of this stuff, but I saw the evidence, like the throwing of the coffee down the hallway. Like there's splatters of coffee on the hallway that I had to wash off. There's splatters on the door that I was throwing at. My husband took him and our two youngest kids with him because I think Nova was gone somewhere staying the night. So him and the two youngest kids locked themselves in the bedroom. Whatever. Eventually, I woke up on the couch. I'm still not wearing my jammies. I actually woke up behind the wheel of my car. I was driving towards the reservation. I woke up and I was like, what the hell? And I looked down and I noticed I don't have any clothes on. And I'm like, man, I hope I can get back home and not get pulled over, because if I get pulled over and I'm naked, how am I supposed to explain this? So I get back home, go through the door to my bedroom is locked, so I sleep on the couch, have the TV turned on, and yeah, my husband came out and he was not pissed off. He was genuinely concerned. Are you okay? He said, I know that wasn't you, that was something else, blah, blah, blah. This thing didn't show up again until about a week or so later, and he's really trying to cause issues between me and my husband, so I'm like, hey, I don't want to talk about this in the house because maybe whatever it is can hear us, but let's go outside. So we walked outside, and I walked towards the gate, and as soon as I went through the gate, I could feel it dispersing, but still, my head is turned backwards, I'm talking shit to my husband, and the further away from the house I get, the easier things go, to the point where I'm just like, I don't know what the heck that is, but there's something that is overcoming me and making me talk shit to you right now. So, I don't know. That is a sort of possession, but I call it a walk-in because it's temporary. It wasn't long-lasting like possessions are. Possessions are for a long time, even maybe for your lifetime. This one was a couple times and it was gone. But yeah, so that's my personal, indicative expression of what a walk-in is. Because a possession is much longer and can actually take your life. But this one was just like trying to teach me a lesson. Don't come back. I'm going to do what I'm going to do with this family, and you're going to stay here and deal with your shit. But totally negative, totally not a good presence, totally didn't pick up on it while I was there. I did feel something watching, like you said, but I didn't feel anything negative or any sort of oppression or anything, so I just showed her the steps. And then later on, it was like, I'm going to teach you a lesson. Don't ever come back, because this is what's going to happen. It was pretty scary for me, but I don't know. That's my interpretation of a walk-in.
Okay, and I respect if you want to use that verbiage for your experience and for yourself. However, for the walk-in communities that I know of and the other walk-ins I know and have met, a walk-in is not a possession, and they would agree, and it's generally agreed on, that walk-ins are a lot of walk-ins are here to stay. They're not just a thing that come and go normally. Some people have had a walk-in experience, which is like, it really is like, sometimes you have to go through a dark night of the soul after a walk-in experience if you have a lot going on that needs to be healed and cleansed for the walk-in, because a walk-in that is of a very high vibrational positive nature coming into a body, according to a soul contract, cannot just live in that body and do its mission and work if it's for even a few years or if it's for a lifetime.
Well, here on Wikipedia it says, a walk-in is a New Age concept of a person whose original soul has departed their body and has been replaced with a new, different soul. Ruth Montgomery popularized the concept in her 1979 book, Strangers Among Us.
Yeah, I'm aware of that book. It's a fairly old one, but I think that was also written in the fairly early days, or somewhat early days, when walk-ins were sort of picking up on the planet. And yeah, there were some walk-ins coming in, but they were also misunderstood. Remember,
well, it says here, beliefs are that believers maintain that it is possible for the original soul of a human to leave a person's body and for another soul to walk in. In Montgomery's work, souls are said to walk in during a period of intense personal problems on the part of the departing soul and during or because of an accident or trauma. Some other walk-ins describe their entry as occurring based on prior agreement, and when the previous soul is complete, the walk-in being /individual retains the memories of the original personality, but does not have emotions associated with the memories. As they integrate, they bring their own mental, emotional, spiritual, and consciousness and evolve the life to resonate with their purpose and intentions. Incarnating into a fully grown body allows the walk-in soul to engage the embodiment without having to go through 2 decades of maturation that humans need to reach adulthood. A walk-in soul also does not experience the conditioning of childhood and has a different relationship to life because they were not born.
Yes, that is correct. Most of that, and generally correct. I did have to, though, retain all my memories except one of the symptoms that's fairly classic for walk-ins that I had to go through for months,
Mhm.
or even a year maybe, was I had all my memories from before the walk-in, but they would like play in my mind kind of like a movie or a
Mhm.
video clip, and I would sort of know about the memory and know the people, but I also had no emotional attachment to the memories that I was seeing in my mind and remembering. And they would just kind of bubble up. It wasn't all very meaningful memories. It was just like um, just bubbles coming up from the bottom of a pond kind of thing. And that's very typical for walk-ins. Some walk-ins do lose their memories. I did not.
For the first time I
Some
had
people,
it, like, I didn't remember any of it, but I remember the second time, I'm like, let's go outside and talk. And as I was walking towards the gate, that thing came upon me again. And I remember walking away. I'm walking away because I know that's what I need to do. But guess what my head was doing? It was like totally turned around, talking shit to my husband the whole time. And the further we got from the property, the easier it was for me to regain control. So I remember that one, but I don't remember the one before. I can
okay,
just remember trying to stop myself from talking, but I couldn't. That's when my head was like turned around. As I'm walking forward, it's turned directly around and talking shit to my husband. The whole time I'm walking away because that's what I know I need to do. I need to get away from this property because that is where it is. And the further away I got, the more control I had. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I was trying to stop it, it wouldn't stop. But now that we're out here, I can have a regular conversation with you. It was so weird.
yeah, that is what I would call a possession. And normally possessions are temporary. Walk-ins often are not so temporary. Sometimes they're only here for a few years or less than a decade and then leave, and the natal soul comes back, and it's like kind of like a second um, walk in, or kind of like um, a reverse exchange, just returning. And so that's because that would only happen, from my understanding, because the walk-in that came in for a purpose and a mission completed the mission that the two souls had agreed on. And that might happen with me, not entirely certain, but that's actually the message I got earlier in my walk-in awakening. Um, I am the walk-in. It's not just a thing that's separate from me. It is just me. And that happened November 11th, 2020 for me. Um, and then after the walk-in, I started to get extreme headaches. It lasted for 3 weeks. It felt like a migraine headache for 3 weeks. I just couldn't get rid of it. After the walk-in, my eyes became even more sensitive to light than they used to
Mm-hmm.
be. And I still cannot look at bright blue light screens for very long without blue light glasses. Otherwise, I get a vice grip headache that feels like a vice grip squeezing my brain. And that's horrible.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Earth now has blue light glasses, a
Yeah, it's
wonderful
pretty cool.
technology.
It's like they have this film on the top of your glasses where you can look at a screen and it refracts the blue light where it doesn't penetrate your soul. No, basically your eyes and your brain and such. But
Yeah, the ones I have are, I don't know if it's a coating. Some of them might be. One of the ones I have is just a yellow tinge, which it doesn't refract blue light. I think it just converts it to a green light frequency. Um, the yellow
yeah,
converts
what I
blue to
had would
green.
not only reflect the blue light when you're looking at a computer screen or your cell phone, but when you're driving, if you have astigmatism like I do, it helps that too. So there was several different prescriptions going on with my last glasses. This newer one is not as fancy, but yeah, it would
Okay,
keep the blue light from penetrating your orbital synapse, you know? It
yeah.
was actually very helpful.
One of the peculiarities or kind of interesting notes of my walk-in story too is that it kind of overlapped from before the walk-in, some events leading up to it, and then stuff after that I completed, kind of like my first mission assignment. And that was that before the walk-in, even in October or before, I had
Well,
a
I
dream.
really don't want to cut you off, but we'll come back to October and before because we do have to go to our second music break, believe it or not.
Okay, well, that's perfect because it will be a great story for me to tell later.
All right, so on this break, we have Miss Michaela May from Ontario, Canada with Gravity, Mirror, Pins and Needles. Then we have Prime Example, which has Roy Washington, our musical host, who gives us most of our music with My Inspiration, and then Fred Johnson III from Canyon County, California with After Dark. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
Signs, a leave behind for you to find. on pins and needles, every word through a microscope. You keep stomping down on the ground while I've been stuck on this tightrope. I just wanna say what I wanna say without your sentence. I'm not willing to do the time when I'm innocent, and I'm innocent. Talking on pins and needles. Talking on pins and needles. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. Walked on my share of thin ice with your blowtorch at my feet. You won't ever see me beg, so take this tongue off your leash. I'm gonna say what I wanna say, don't need permission. Interpret it how you want, it's my decision. Talking on pins and needles. Talking on pins and needles. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. Dancing on shattered glass, kicking the pieces all around. My safety has been broken, this is now a hunting ground. Talking on pins and needles. Talking on pins and needles. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, up, up. Talking about, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, up, up. Talking about, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, up, up. Talking about, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, 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 up.
When you smile, I see the life in your eyes. I hear the rhythm of you, creating moments we chill to. Wrapped in the waves of emotion, it's imperative. We're making love to your mind. It's like the feel of your thighs on my back when I'm deep in consummation with you in the room. It's not the scent of your breath in my face when we touch and share the rhythm of a loving embrace. Yeah. It's your smile that lets me know I'm on point, that I have written the word in this joint, and it's you. Pretty brown eyes and confidence, you're my ministry, and girl, I'm feeling it. Come on, so smile for me, and don't let my hand go, girl. I just want you to know when I'm sending my love to you in verse 2 with a kiss and a beat that you and I can step to. Come on, God created the heavens and the earth. What he saved is very best for the day of your birth. No longer is it just me, myself, and I, but since you have arrived, you're the apple of my eye, girl. Open your heart and let me come inside. All this love is forever for the ride. And when that DJ played our favorite song, we dance the night away until we're heading home where we're
My driver pulls up in my limousine, ready to take me anywhere I want to be. I said, I want to go. Take me to a college scene. I'd like to go and dance, have drinks, and hunt the perfect date. Yeah. Living at the door, I search lonely streets to find hidden shadows in the dark. It doesn't matter what I say. Secret homicides arranged in a series of pursuits. No matter what I say, after dark, I gave her base because she had the range. I knew she was the one that never could go home again. Plastic life by limo seats. I don't know why I can't control this urge to hurt again. Yeah. Living at the door, I search lonely streets to find hidden shadows in the dark. It doesn't matter what I say. Changes in the stuff, murder forever after. No matter what I say, after dark. Feeling ran to arguments and fear. Hiding place with days of December. Concerning works or meshed in the madness. It doesn't matter what I say. It really doesn't. No matter what I say, after dark. It doesn't matter what I say. Secret homicides arranged in a series of pursuits. No matter what I say, changes in the stuff, murder forever after. It doesn't matter what I say. Brooding fatal, lacking the hint of conscience. No matter what I say, after dark.
Welcome back, Wappum crew, new listeners, friends, fiends, family, phantoms, guys, gals, and ghouls. Welcome. You are all welcome here. Tonight we have Mr. Travis Bacon on, and we're talking about walk-ins and possessions. So Travis, continue with what you were wanting to talk about before.
Okay, just one thing. My name is Troy, not Travis, but
Oh yes, Troy
that's okay.
Bacon. I'm sorry.
A lot of people do that type of thing with TR names. That's okay. Anyway, Tessa, you and I were just talking. I want to basically repeat this conversation we had for a few minutes. I want to become more clear about what a walk-in is and isn't, because a walk-in is not a possession. They're very different things. A possession...
Okay, so that's where I just don't understand. Like, if a spirit
Yeah,
walks into your body and takes over your body, isn't that the
Well-
same as a possession?
No, because what I've come to know as possessions and dealt with as possessions is
Mm-hmm.
a spirit that, usually a dark spirit, that forcefully comes into a person and takes over their body, usually can move their body, and is destructive and insulting and other types of negativity. Sometimes even want to try to kill other people in that body. One thing that I've found with the people I've dealt with who've been possessed
Mm-hmm.
is when they are possessed by a dark spirit, and then the dark spirit leaves by some means, and then the natal person comes back, then the person sometimes describes having been in like just a dark place, kind of like a dark sleep, but doesn't really remember what happened
That's
normally.
what I felt like. I went,
Yeah,
I was
so
watching live PD, I was sitting in my chair, in my comfy cozy jammies, and then all of a sudden, I tear all my jammies off, and I'm slurring insults and such, and then I wake up a certain
yeah,
degree
so
from my house. I'm
that's
like,
a
where the
possession,
heck am I going? Yeah, that was
whereas
really
a
scary for me.
walk-in is quite the opposite. They're of a positive nature, and by soul contract, a possession is not by soul contract,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very much a violation of the person's conscious will as well as the soul's will normally,
Right.
even from a soul contract nature normally, um, unless maybe the higher level soul in the spirit world that's not incarnated, then maybe did choose before this lifetime to experience possessions, but still live through it, most likely. But a walk-in is by a soul contract, and Tessa, like you were reading, they are quite often from a near-death experience. They come in, or sometimes a surgery, sometimes just from a traumatic event. Sometimes people might be traumatized by abuse or something and leave their body, and then the walk-in might also come in that way, but it is only by a predetermined soul contract that
So
is
can a
either
walk-in be by a person that has like a fractured soul, and certain
um,
entities of the soul comes and walks in, or is this
that
different?
is a type of walk-in.
Okay,
It's like a braided walk-in is another category that
right.
I think is I might fall into. I'm not certain. I think I have had a braid, but also my original walk-in was an exchange, is the best way I can call it. Um, but yeah, the soul contract for the walk-in is either made before the body is born or after, and the disincarnate parts of the soul in the spirit world make the soul contract with the walk-in aspect. And the walk-in is not always a separate entity or a separate soul. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they can be like an angelic part or a very high density and evolved part from even another dimension, another group or race of star people, or something else, or even a fairy realm. Some quite often though, or in my case, my walk-in is part of an oversoul, and from my understanding, the best way I can describe it is we're a tag team, and the
You say Oversoul, I think Overlord. I don't know.
yeah, there's
And my friend
I can
BTO, he used to
understand
talk
that.
about, okay, we're born. When we're born, our soul is fractured. And I think it just
Um,
really depends on what sort of stasis you're going into. And perhaps if it is an abusive stasis, you could be fractured. But yeah,
yes.
he totally had the belief that the soul is fractured when you come into this world. And then you have to put the puzzle back together.
Well, that is one thing that can happen, especially from souls that have been traumatized or
Mm-hmm.
been even murdered and broken and persecuted
Yeah.
from other lifetimes, and they come in with all of that and not complete. Otherwise, almost nobody comes into this world just as they're
The fractured
born.
soul.
Yeah, pretty much everybody has some sort of
It's gonna take a bit of
fractures
time.
because it doesn't really serve a soul well to be born here and be perfect and whole and not have anything to heal or deal with. But with a walk-in, so there are different types. There's the braided, there's the jumper. Most often it's an exchange of some sort. And with exchanges, there are many walk-ins that have been reported or report losing all of their memories. It's kind of like it feels like they're being born, but into an adult body, and
Mm-hmm.
have no memory, almost no memory of the
Oh my
person who was
gosh.
there before, the soul that was there before, and that is usually with a separate soul aspect.
My
What now?
grandson, he is so frustrated. And I can tell because he's like, "Dad," like he can't talk, but he's making these noises. He is so frustrated. And he keeps getting the noonie, he keeps getting breastfed, other things. He sees the kids running around. Yes, I know he wants to run around too, but I think there's a little bit more to like what he's trying
Okay,
to say. Because what I'm feeling when he's like, and like these different noises he's making, I can totally understand what he's saying. And his mom's like, oh, it's just this and this and that. And I'm like, there's a lot more going on there than you think, sister. I think he's trying to communicate like his frustration. He knew how to work his body in a past life. And right now he can't do it the way he used to. And so he's just like, ah, he's like so frustrated.
that could be. Yeah, a lot of babies and children these days are coming in who've been here many, many times before, which is really nothing new. I've been around many times before,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of them are coming in with much clearer memory of having lived before and of their lives and their talents, which it's a phenomena we've been witnessing on this planet for probably around a decade or more of toddlers having amazing talents that they were never taught, playing the piano, um, dancing amazingly
Yes.
well,
Singing.
yeah, various other things that they were never taught, but they can just do.
Do it. They can do
And they
it.
probably,
It's just like when I was in band, my teacher was like, how do you know what these tones are? I'm like, I don't know, I just know.
yeah, so that's happening. Also, one thing we've been seeing now for a while with children who are already like in their tweens and teens, um, basically um, protesting and demanding that we be more responsible with
Yeah.
our resources, no more fossil fuels, no more plastic pollution in the ocean, various other things.
Well, my
And
teenager is
because,
demanding that I do her physical work, even though she has one chore. She's like, could you please just do my one chore for me?
yeah,
Great.
a lot, a
That's
lot of
great.
the evolved ones, though, or the more evolved ones who are awakening, um, are demanding these things because they know that if we don't act now, they are not going to have a planet to live well on
And the only
or
thing
live
I
on
can
at
see
all.
is like she's in a certain stasis where she's like, I need to stay in my stasis. Can you please do my one chore for me? So either her or my dad does it for her, and she just stays in that stasis where she is. Is she feeding things or doing things that are helping the world? Or no?
Is
No,
she
but I'm
hyper
just like,
focused?
she is. Yes.
Yeah, I do that quite often when I'm focused and doing one task already, trying to
Mm-hmm.
complete something, then I don't like being disturbed.
Yeah, you
Um,
need to stay in your stasis. Otherwise,
yeah,
it's going to disturb what you've been focusing on all along. But I'm like, okay, what are you doing? You're talking online, you're doing this, you're doing that. But I think she has something else going on. So I'm
Maybe,
just like,
yeah, I would have to learn more to actually say something about that. But I want to go back to your earlier question about what an oversoul is. And
mm-hmm,
this is just in my experience. Maybe other people call it something different, but to me, it feels like a higher level of my soul that I come from, or that my walk in and or my, actually, I should say walk out and I come from. It's kind of like an umbrella of soul that we're both a part of, that kind of joins us. And so to clarify more about what that's like for me, I'll go into a bit of a tangent of what my walk in and I are like, or walk out and I are like. So I learned in hypnosis from a friend who does quantum healing hypnosis that what happened with my walk-in is we had a soul exchange, and this was done on a very high, fairly high dimension level. I think 6th density or higher. Basically, our Gray and Mantis friends or associates who were part of the surgery and operation and part of our little group we operate with. When I was asleep in this body, or this body was asleep, the natal soul, or a part of it, I don't want to say it's the whole soul that was basically cut out or removed, but a fraction of it, a piece of it was surgically removed in psychic surgery. And it was a very delicate operation that had to happen almost instantly. And then a fraction of the soul from Gray alien's body, from where the walk-in came from, was taken, and then it was an exchange that way. And so what I've become aware of, and he visits me sometimes in my mind and telepathically, is my walkout, who is now in a Gray alien's body that I came from. But here's the really weird, or kind of strange, complicated thing about my walk-in or walkout and I and us, is that I come from that space, that much higher density of where that Gray body is residing. And that aspect had to try to step down to this Earth body's density, which is why I had a 3-week-long migraine headache. And so then the part that came from this body and went to that higher density had to also be retrained to operate at that level again. And so basically, I, as a walk-in, am part Gray, but also largely, I mean, this is an Earth human body in existence, but also part Syrian, which the Syrians are essentially human types, but fairly evolved. So it's kind of like a Gray Syrian human hybrid walk-in existence. The walk-in the integration process took quite a while for me, like around 6 months initially, for me to actually start identifying with this body and really feeling like I'm here. But even after that, it took months of me doing more intensive work, not only with my own hypnotherapy training, but also psychic healing work with a healer I know, Jules Jacqueline. She does distance healing. Really amazing work, though. It all was very effective, and I saw and felt and heard real results in my life of things changing. Even after my walk-in, I think I grew about half an inch to an inch after the age of 25. And normally, I thought I was done growing.
Yeah, you're like, what the hell?
I have grown a little bit, and that's actually normal for walk-ins.
It's not just like physically, but it's spiritually.
Yeah, but physically this body has grown, also spiritually.
And I think that has to be like spiritually conducive. Like, this is something to do with the spiritual body that is allowing you, because most people quit growing after junior high school. Nobody grows any taller when you go to high school, etc. And now you're an adult and you're still growing. I think that is because of a spiritual realm instead of a physical. Even though it's physically affecting you.
I think it's both. Really, my understanding is that this is also a download that was given to this body years before the walk-in, but the energy body, the mind, the emotions of the body, as well as the soul, soul contracts, karma, aura, and the invisible threads connecting us to other people and things that are real energetic filaments, as well as guides, angels, spirit entities around us, and parts of us, and even our twin flames or soul partners. They're all connected, especially on the level of the mind, body, spirit, emotions, and soul contract and karma. That's much more personal, and that's all connected, and they affect each other. So even the karma and the bodies we've lived in before, and the kinds of lessons we need to and have chosen to learn as souls, affect our physical body as the download and lesson, because each physical body has to be perfectly hardwired and conducive to exactly what the mission of the soul is, and the agreements of the soul. Yeah, so it all affects. It's all interconnected. One thing about the body, too, especially as it relates to walk-ins, is that each individual body, and even the genetics of the body and how the genes behave and how they have evolved epigenetically in this lifetime in the bodies growing up, all of that is exactly chosen, or has to be kind of predetermined and chosen by the walk-in partnership before the walk-in itself, either before the body's birth or just before the walk-in event, regardless of what triggered it or what the kind of portal of the walk-in coming in was. Yeah, that's specific because this body has conditions that not everyone else has. I think they're autoimmune, except one test I already took with a doctor said it came back as negative for autoimmune, but that was for...
I believe I have that too, and they're like, nope, not showing any signs. I'm like, what about these lines in my fingernails and my toenails? And they're like, oh, well, that spot on your toenail is an injury, and this and this and that and that, and this one over on your right fingernail is actually a sign of what was past. And I'm like, no, that's a new injury. This is not an injury on my toe. this is like some sort of mole or something trying to grow. I believe it's still there, but she's like,
Yeah,
oh no, that's an injury, and this one's not, and et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, you work in the world of skin, and I think I know more than what you're talking about right now because this is a new injury, that is not an injury, and et cetera. Like, I don't know, it's so frustrating.
yeah. After the walk-in, I found myself doing like really intensive, spending hours each day, sometimes for months, reading medical papers from like NCBI, PubMed, peer-reviewed, well-researched papers.
Right?
I still think they're very valuable information. Some of them are even um, are studies about acupuncture. Some
Mm-hmm.
are one of the things I started learning about that I really read into for quite a while is MTHFR gene mutations, and that's something that not everyone has. But I started reading about that because um, someone told me that about 80 or 90% of autoimmune conditions are caused en route by an MTHFR gene mutation. And MTHFR, there are two types. I don't remember the exact letters of each name, but I have both types, one variant of each type from each of my genetic parents. And I think if you have both of the same variants of each type, then that is something else and something a little worse.
So, have
But
you done any sort of like genealogy or genetic experimentation on yourself? Like for me, for the longest time, wasn't gonna do it, but I got to a point where I need to know where I'm coming from because I'm hearing all these stories and lore, etc., etc. I did my genetics test and I realized my sister is full of shit because her aunt used to tell her all these Cherokee lores and stories. Come to find out, I don't think I'm Cherokee at all. Maybe if I am, I'm 0.03% or 0.01, which is basically nothing. But everything she's told me is a lie because I am Irish, I'm Welsh, basically mostly European. Irish is the biggest part of me. Um, there's no Cherokee whatsoever. There's like my uncle, he did genealogy and he said, "Oh, well there's a Spanish princess in there." There's not even any Spanish in there. There's
you
Black
know,
Irish, which is where the black were taking from Africa to Ireland, and perhaps some people made it, and some things happened there, and perhaps that's why I'm 0.3% black. But I don't know, it's so strange how that happens. And she sent me a thing because she's in prison once again. I need to go and say, hey, could you allow me to write this person? I have to send this to the warden, and then I get the permission, then I can write my sister. But I've just been so busy and just really not caring about it at this point. And I hate to be that way, but at the same time, I'm trying to live my life and she keeps fucking up her life, so what do you do? But yeah, it's amazing how the genealogy is and what different traits you do have and what different traits are non-existent that you thought you did have.
yeah, it's been proven too in more recent years in quantum physics and quantum genealogy and also just genetic studies that genes do change,
Mm-hmm.
and we have thousands and thousands of genes within each of us, and I think within each strand, there's so many. They change depending on epigenetics, and meditation can even turn on and off genes. Um, that's been proven with transcendental meditation. I know that for some studies. Um, yeah, genes do change, and I had an interesting experience earlier this year. Um, I was kind of drawn to Turkey and Arabic art for a while because some of my my past lives on this planet have been around the Middle East, in Assyria, in Egypt, and around that area. It's pretty similar once you really start to trace some things back. But
That's amazing too, because like
yeah,
you're mentioning that, and at first it didn't come up, but then they're figuring out more things all the time, and all of a sudden I'm Egyptian and Arabic and this other shit. I'm like, what?
well, here's the thing, because I already had a 23andMe test done and account going before years ago, since before
Yeah,
I came
mine
in as a
started off
walk-in.
as like
But
medical, now it's
so
genetic, and it's
I
like, what? It's weird.
yeah, I don't check it very often. I have both the health and ancestry going,
I don't check it until
but
something comes up and it's like, guess what? We found out something new. And I'm like, well, what is
yeah,
that? And then it's like, oh, you're part Arabic and Czechoslovakian or something like that.
and
Arabic
so
and
that is what
Egyptian is what
happened.
it was. Arabic and Egyptian. And I'm like, wow. That explains the eyes, I guess. I don't know.
That's what happened kind of with me earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, my genes, my test on there says I'm largely Northwestern European, a lot of Norwegian, Irish, German,
That's where I'm
and
at too.
some
Like I'm
French and other things.
84% all that other stuff. French, Irish,
Yeah,
Scottish,
but
Norwegian, etc. 84% that.
all
Otherwise, like then the Egyptian and other stuff popped up. Is that what happened with you too, or no?
kind of. But what
Because I
happened
think
with me
different people
is
test at different times, and that's when they pop up. Because
well,
otherwise, they're like,
maybe.
oh, there's this certain percent. We don't know what it is. And then somebody tests from that certain tribe, whether it be Native American or Egyptian or whatever. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, guess what? You're part Egyptian and this other stuff. I'm like, wow, now I feel really exotic.
Maybe, but when I was getting into all this Islamic art research and studies
Mm-hmm.
online, 23andMe came up with this strand or some percentage, I think it was 1% or some small percent of Turkish.
Yep.
Actually, they called it Anatolian, which is Turkish. And there, of course, Turkey has had multiple wars and takeovers from especially Greece and
So much war
just,
all around, right?
yeah, various Mediterranean areas and countries and
That's why my second toe
um,
is longer than my first.
maybe. But yeah, so really, it's hard to say if that Turkish Anatolian gene or genetic component would have been maybe just from intermixing with more Caucasian Western European people who came through at some point or had wars in Turkey and colonized some parts of it, or if that is just pure native Turkish.
Yeah, and that's so weird because it's like, what is
But
what? So my dad died, and so all I have is my monarchical sort of extent. So what I need to do once I get paid again, order a DNA test, have my brother take it. That way I can get my father's side of it too. Because they're saying they can't test both. They're
well,
just like, oh,
also,
this is just the female side of you. We haven't tested the male side of you, except for, okay, so the Irish part comes from my dad, although that's my grandma, who is Nova Rose O'Brien. Okay, so that tests me to her, but I guess if my brother does it, I get more information. That is so weird. Like, how can they not test the male side through you because you have both parts in you? But I guess like I'm more female than male or more male than female or whatever. Whatever they're saying is going on, I have to have my brother test in order to get the full lineage, which makes no sense to me. I think they're just trying to make more money. But
maybe, I mean, you never know with these DNA companies, but here's the thing that kind of proved that I think the DNA sample they have
mm-hmm.
from this body was changed and activated by that that kind of Islamic Middle Eastern activation I was going through with my lifetimes there too, as remembering, because I was also messaging with my biological mother and asking her if that same Anatolian component was coming up on her test.
So did you
And
test her
it's
too?
not.
Like, so she was tested and you were
well,
tested.
yeah,
You have the full lineage.
she already had an account on 23andMe.
That's awesome.
And so we had already had that going. But yeah,
That's
she
the
did
only
not
thing.
have the Anatolian percentage on there. So that was definitely something very personal to me, that my genetics, I think that sample they have was being activated by what I was going through currently with this body and
Mhm.
an energy activation. And even though the sample, I don't even know where it is, probably one of those frozen DNA banks or something, far, far away. But
For the future genealogy of the earth.
probably,
Shall it persevere
anyway,
and live
it's,
beyond us? I
yeah,
see a very dirty, hairy, like, sort of end for us. It's gonna be willy-nilly, it's gonna be crazy. According to my patriarchal blessing, I'm supposed to be a leader among women, and I think that spreads over to men too. But I'm supposed to be here for the end of times and to get people through it, and I'm supposed to live through it. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's pretty intriguing to me to hear that.
okay. Um, yeah, so there's a lot that can happen with genes, quantum stuff. It's really weird. But that's just something that I think every evolving planet too has to learn about, or often ends up learning about in their change period and evolution, is genealogy, but especially unification. Although I've heard, I don't know what the original source of this is from, but I heard recently that Earth is a unique planet because it has both options
Mm-hmm.
here that other planets only have one of. And I think the two were...
You could be in the CO2 or the oxygen environment. Where do you want to be?
It's more of a spiritual thing. I think it was either you can learn, you can explore emotion, you can explore free will,
Mm-hmm.
or
That is so major, and a lot of
or
people don't get
explore
that. They're like, oh, I have to do this
emotions.
because I'm Catholic, or I have to do this because I'm Baptist. I'm like, guess what? Whether you're alive or dead, you have free agency, free will. It doesn't matter what your parents or your religion or whatever said. What do you believe? So for me, I have gone to so many churches. Like when I was a kid, after my mom died, I was like, I need religion in my life. So I went to different places and I realized the church that I am a part of is the church of love. Because that's what my brother Jesus Christ taught. Love one another as I would love you. Do not judge, etc., etc. Like, I'm so happy with that. And raising my kids, and other people are like, oh no, well, you gotta do this, you gotta take sacrament, you gotta do etc. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't. God does not administer that. God administers free will. Whatever your will is, so be it.
Yes, exactly.
So we are
That
at the end of
is,
our time, Troy. Do you want to tell our listeners again what your website is, etc.?
yes. My website is newbeinghypnosis.com. You can reach me there. You can reach out and message, email, and set up a consultation. Also learn more about my practice. I'll probably be updating my website here and there. It's pretty well updated to what I do, but my hypnotherapy practice involves some of the services I offer involve tinnitus treatment through hypnosis, which is a 6-week program that I offer. Actually, 7-week, up to 7 weeks.
And I really want to talk
Normally,
to you about that because I've had that for over 3 years. And then my big brother just got with me. He's like, guess what? I have tinnitus. And I'm like, dude, I've had that for over 3 years now. And I got my hearing tested. My hearing is perfect, but I still have tinnitus to the point where I have to listen to Spooky Boo or whoever during the night as I'm trying to sleep. I need to have some sort of sound in the background. Otherwise, the ringing in my ears is deafening. And it causes so many issues.
yeah,
So, um, I
there's
want
a
to
lot.
get your information so I can send him to you because not only do I need the help, he needs it because he's at the point where I used to be where it's like freaking me out so much like I don't even know where to go. That's where he's at right now. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I think I'm going to die." I'm like, "Yep, I've been there before." But you're not. You're not going to die. You just need to learn how to deal with it. Hearing is
Yeah,
perfect.
exactly.
There's that ringing in the ears, and that only used to happen with spiritual encounters. Now it's happening 24/7.
Um, yeah, that can happen. That's very treatable. It sounds like his condition is treatable, and it can be treated usually in about 2 or 3 weeks. You start seeing um, a major difference, and then it gets better and better. And even after the 7-week course I offer, people are welcome to continue working with me if they need to. Some clients, in some cases, will need further treatment, which is different for everyone. But yeah, tinnitus is complicated.
It
There,
is.
there are not only mental and emotional and physical components,
Within
but
the brain.
also, yeah, in the brain, in the subconscious mind, which is a
Mm-hmm.
lot what we work with, but also chemicals can be triggers for
Mm-hmm.
tinnitus, and even blood sugar. That's a thing that I've found with myself and others. Um, and yeah, sound, of course, is a big thing, like exterior sound exposure.
Well, yeah, and people
Uh,
were thinking, oh, well, you've been exposed to really loud sounds, your husband's in band, you shoot firearms, etc., etc. I'm like, hey, I generally wear ear protection for this stuff, and no, like, they tested my hearing is perfect, but I still have tinnitus. So it's not something within my ears, it's either something within my brain or my heart, which I discovered recently through my brother Greg. He actually said that he had extra valves. He had to get that fixed. He didn't tell me about it until after he got it fixed, but it could be a condition of the heart too. So it's hard to tell where this tinnitus is actually coming from because, like I said, my hearing is perfect, but it's pretty intriguing.
yeah, it's all definitely treatable. Modern medical doctors generally don't have a treatment for tinnitus, except some people find benefit from hearing aids. I That didn't work out for me. I think I'm just
Yeah, I
too
don't have
sensitive.
a need for hearing aids. I just need to have something to distract me from the
Yeah,
ringing. And
even
sometimes I'm like, holy shit, the ringing went away. And as soon as I realize it, it comes back.
even some
So that's
hearing
really weird.
aids. A lot of hearing aids, though, have a built-in tinnitus masker function that just has a noise frequency
I don't
to
think
help
it's in my
mask it.
ears. I think it's in my head.
Well, yeah, that's the thing too. That's treatable, and that's where hypnosis is really instrumental. Is treating the emotional and psychological and subconscious components that you're probably not aware of. But yeah,
Yeah, it's just really
that's
weird
where
it
it
popped
comes
up in
in.
the last 3 years. But Troy, we are at the end of our time. So again, give our listeners your website so they can check you out.
Yeah, newbeinghypnosis.com, and I'm also on Facebook with New Being Hypnosis, and Troy J. Bacon is my hypnotherapy Facebook account. There's a CHT at the end, as well as I'm on LinkedIn, on Alignable too, which is a business networking website. And I started a TikTok account where I share wisdom and
Nice.
insights about hypnosis.
Heck yes. Oh man, I had to take so many takes the other day to do my TikTok, and I'm like, okay, take 9, and I finally got it.
Yeah,
Thank you
take
so
some
much
practice.
again, Troy, for being my guest tonight. It was a pleasure having you. And I can't wait to do it again because I know we have a lot more stuff that we need to talk about.
We definitely do. Yeah, there's a lot more I can say.
And I
Thank you,
also,
Tessa.
well, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you were here. And I also want to thank all of our friends on We Are Paradox Media's KPNL Radio, Facebook, Twitter, iHeartRadio, and wherever else beyond the Omniverse that you are listening tonight. I had a wonderful time, and I can't wait to do it again next weekend. We've got the Paradox Paranormal Forum, and then we also have Mr. John Yost talking about alien abductions, etc. Don't forget, you guys, we are all in this together. Together, we can make the world a little better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media, because without you, there is no us. If you'd like to join us on the Skype after party, look me up at tessa.n.thomas30 or give us a little jingle at 1-970-335-9596. Until next time, nighty night, love and light. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend and the rest of your working weekdays. And I will see you back here, same time, same crazy place.